Good evening, everyone. Welcome to India's largest online learning portal for the preparation of competitive exam Unacademy. My name is Neelam Malkani, and I'm going to be a guide and facilitator for CAT and other management exams. In today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the important topics of verbal ability part of CAT, that is para summary questions. Ever since the pattern of CAT changed, this question has been a consistent feature of verbal ability part. This year as well, there are likely to be at least 2 to 3 questions from this part of verbal ability. So it's very essential for you to understand the basics of para summary as well as some strategies which you can put into practice to do these questions. Alright, so today's session is going to focus on para summary questions of CAT verbal ability. Before that, let me give you a brief introduction of myself and about Unacademy. My name is Neelam Malkani. I possess around 12 years of experience of test preparation industry and have trained around 20,000 students preparing for CAT, GRE, GMAT, SAT and CLAT. My areas of expertise have been English and verbal reasoning. I have also set and designed assessment papers of English for various governing bodies as well as professional bodies. Recently, I have authored a comprehensive book of English for the preparation of competitive exams. I have also served as an examiner of English for an international organization. This video is brought to you by Unacademy, so let me take you to its portal and tell you step by step how you can be part of this. You have to download the Unacademy Learning app in the Play Store and fill in all the details which are required. You will get to see plus free courses and special classes. If you want to attend classes for CAT, you have to opt for plus. Under this category, you will see all the features that you will be availing once you subscribe this course. Features such as 30 hours of live sessions every day. As per your availability, as per your convenience, and as per your preference, you can choose the time of your preparation, you can choose the time of your attending classes. These courses are delivered by top 40 educators of India. These educators possess wealth of experience of their respective fields and have been mentoring and guiding students for CAT and other management exams. The courses which are delivered by these prominent faculty members are well structured and well designed by those people who have extensive experience of curriculum and module design. What more, every month you get to see a new course being launched on Unacademy, cater to specific needs of an exam. Alright, so once you are satisfied with all these features, you can go in the subscription and you will see that different models of subscription have been put into place to cater to your specific needs. If you are targeting CAT 21, you can go for 1 year subscription. If you are targeting only CAT 20, you can go for 2 months or 3 months subscription. Alright, so this is how these are tailor-made for you and for your convenience. Whichever model of subscription you choose here, if you want to avail further 10% discount, you have to type code NEEL. Alright? Now, a very important information about National Scholarship Test. The test is conducted by Unacademy on the recent changes which have been brought in CAT this year. There are going to be 3 sections. And once you take the test, you will be given detailed analysis of each section. You will be given your national ranking and you will be given your scale score of each section. Alright, so this is how you can see your preparedness level for this exam this year, as well as you will also understand what you need to do in order to score well in your next test as well as in your actual exam. Alright, so do enroll yourself for this test and take the test coming Sunday. Alright, and if you are one of the top 50 scorers of this test, you will get Amazon voucher of rupees 5,000. Don't miss the chance. Now let's get started with today's session. As I said, today I'm going to talk about paragraph summary questions. Now, these questions have been appearing ever since the pattern of verbal ability changed in 2014-15. So ever since this changed, this question has been a part and parcel of verbal ability. So if you have seen the shift of CAT from grammar and vocabulary and RC to paragraph-based reasoning questions, this question tests your ability of understanding a paragraph well, right? So till 2019, 3 questions of paragraph summary. Since the time has reduced this year, so there are likely this year as well, there are likely to be at least 2 questions of paragraph summary. All right. So they are questions. They are the variety of questions in which you won't be given any penalty. You won't be slapped any penalty for marking the incorrect answer, right? So it comes into non-MCQ questions, but you will be given 4 options, right? So unlike paragrammar questions or unlike odd sentence out question, where you have to type in your answer. In paragrammar, you have to type your sequence. In odd sentence out, you have to type your answer. Here, you have to type your answer, but the options are given. You don't have to create your options, right? So that way, the question is going to be easier than parajumble and odd sentence out, all right? Because parajumble, it's very chaotic because you have to create all the options, all right? So this question gives you that kind of access to options. Same way, you will have to type your answer. So if you feel that a summary is representing the perfect essence of the paragraph, that's going to be your answer and you have to type A. All right, so you are given options, but you will have to type your answer. Now, summary question will not have any negative marking, so it makes all the more reason for you to attempt these questions and pay your attention to these questions before your exam. All right. Now, this is how a paragraph summary question looks like. So this question has been taken from CAT 2019 paper. The direction says the passage given below is followed by 4 alternate summaries. Choose the option that best captures the essence of the passage, right? So that's going to be a classic direction for all paragraph summary questions. There will be a short paragraph, usually 4, 5 or 6 lines. It can also be longer than that, and then followed by 4 options. So that's how a question is going to look like. Now, as I have been saying in all my sessions that I have taken so far about verbal ability, that all verbal ability questions, 10 questions of verbal ability, paragraph jumble, odd sentence out, and paragraph summary, all these 3 questions are checking your understanding of constitution of a paragraph. In paragraph jumble questions, you are tested on your ability to see how a meaningful order of sentence can be there to form a paragraph. How a paragraph is formed by jumble sentences, right? So that's the ability that you have to showcase in parajumble questions. In odd sentence out, you have to see which sentence is not needed to form a paragraph, right? So which sentence cannot be integrated into the structure of a paragraph. That means you need to know how the structure of a paragraph goes. Then only you will be able to ascertain that this sentence is not required to form a paragraph. Third, summary question. Summary question tests your ability of understanding the sum and substance of a paragraph. So if you see closely, underneath all these questions lies the understanding of a paragraph, right? So that is what makes the foundational concept of doing these questions. So since I did that with parajumble question as well, I'm going to give you this short brief about how a paragraph is constituted. Then we will move on to discuss how to find the summary of these paragraphs. All right. Every paragraph will essentially have 3 sentences or 3 parts, right? Topic sentence that forms the controlling idea, that conveys the controlling idea. So controlling idea is the idea which is the theme of the paragraph, which captures the theme of the paragraph. This controlling idea is usually at the very beginning of the paragraph. You will find author stating what he is going to talk about in the very first line. But it does not always happen that the topic sentence will be there in the very first line. In some of the cases, you will find that topic sentence emerges in the middle of the paragraph, sometime in the conclusion of the paragraph. Sometimes author starts with anecdotal evidence or with example, or he gives a piece of fact. And in the middle of the paragraph, he develops his main idea. This topic sentence can come anywhere in the paragraph. 90% time it will be at the beginning, but in some cases you will also find this topic sentence coming somewhere else in the paragraph. You have to find this topic sentence. That is what is going to capture the main idea or the primary theme of the paragraph. If you miss that, you are possibly not going to understand the summary. Alright, so this topic sentence, which is going to convey what is it that author feels about the topic, what is it that author's point of view is on the topic. Alright, so this topic sentence is to be understood. That is always there in a paragraph. Second, when he lays it down that what is the paragraph about and what his opinion or his point of view on that topic is, he is going to support that with supporting details. He is going to illustrate his main idea or his topic sentence with examples or evidence or statistics. You have to understand that these are supporting details. They do not form the main idea. You will have to understand that they are in the service of main idea. Alright, so they are always supporting what author wants to say. So they may be in your summary, they may also be omitted from your summary, because essentially your summary should include the main idea, right? So you need to differentiate what main idea is and what supporting details are. Third, concluding statement. The statement which is bringing climax to the idea, usually the ending sentence. So your paragraph is going to have these three essential items: opening statement, which is also known as topic sentence, supporting sentences or supporting details which are there in the body, and the third sentence is your ending sentence. This concludes or closes the paragraph. It brings climax to the idea. Now, sometime in the climax only, author introduces a new dimension. If he has stated a concept in the paragraph at the beginning, he possibly expresses his doubt in the concluding sentence by saying however, by starting the sentence with however. If he has expressed his opinion on a certain issue, in the concluding statement he might give a counter argument and closes the paragraph. You are not supposed to miss this detail, because there lies important shift in the argument. You might bring some transition in the very last statement. Alright? So these are three essential parts that you have to focus on in order to understand a paragraph well. Invariably, you will find these three items in a paragraph. Now, when you attempt these questions, what is it that you are required to do in order to minimize your time, in order to retain the message, and in order to come to your right answer, come to your right summary? What is it that you are required to do? First, understand the primary subject and author's point of view. The primary subject, as we have already discussed in one of the classes I took on RC, so there is a subject and there is a scope. So you understand that this is the subject and this is the author's opinion on that subject. So while reading it, how author has developed his opinion, or which sentence exhibits author's opinion or author's point of view on a subject. Now, if the subject is criminalization in politics, what is author's point of view? Is he aghast? Is he finding it deplorable? Is he extremely critical, or does he accept it as reality? So what is author's point of view? Is he cynical that the situation is never going to change? So his point of view will be reflected in the first half of the paragraph. Invariably, that is what you have got to understand in order to understand what author is set out at the beginning. Next part or next job that you have to perform while doing these questions is to see the logical link of details and example. So if he gives an example, try to see what he wants to prove by giving that example. If he gives a detail, detail means fact, statistics, supporting detail, another example, right? So what is it that he wants to prove by giving so many examples, so many details? Third, understand its conclusion. As I said, when you read these three essential parts, please try to understand what he concludes his argument with, what he concludes his paragraph with. Is he bringing a shift in his thought, or is he just concluding what he set out at the beginning in the paragraph? And last thing that you have to do in order to minimize your confusion is to summarize on your own. Before looking at the option, what is it? What is the overarching idea that stays in your mind, that author wants to communicate to you? After reading the paragraph, what is it that you feel like? So if you are clear with that, it will be easier for you to eliminate the option which are not capturing the thought which has generated in your mind. All right? So I hope we are clear on this, that without looking at the option, try to summarize the idea in your own mind. As I said, your example, supporting details, fact may be missed out in the summary, but main idea has to be represented in your summary. So what is it that author wants to convey? Central idea, central theme, try to summarize in your own word. All right? So this is what you are required to do while doing summary questions. Now, this question appeared in one of these years in CAT. I have taken all the questions from previous year of CAT only. Now look at this paragraph, read this paragraph carefully, and the techniques we discussed. Author's point of view, what the subject is, what is author's point of view on that subject, logical links, conclusion, and finally, what is it that you find as a summary of this paragraph, or how you would like to summarize the paragraph in 2 lines or 1 line. I'll give you 40 seconds to read it, and then we will have a brief discussion on this. All right, so here the subject, if you have figured out well, the subject of this paragraph is gene modification in Japan. That's the broad subject. Now what is author's opinion on that, or what is author's point of view on that? So let's see. Only genetically modified organisms that have had foreign genes permanently introduced in their genome, and not those whose endogenous genes have been edited. So this is how the paragraph starts, that a panel announced that it recommends regulating only genetically modified organisms, not those whose endogenous genes have been edited. So those genes which are integral part of it, I mean that they are integral part is not edited, is edited, but the foreign genes permanently introduced in their genome, they are not allowed. The only stipulation is that researchers and businesses will have to register their modification to plants or animal with the government. So only stipulation is suggesting author's opinion here, that all these companies have to do is to register themselves with the government. If they are into gene modification, they have to register with the government, with the exception of microbes cultured in contained environments. Now this is exception. This is to be read with utmost care, because here comes the exception. Now it has to be captured in your summary. Reaction to the decision are mixed. Now author is saying that this decision has mixed reaction. While lauding the potential benefits of genome editing, lauding, appreciating. An editorial opposes across the board permission, right? So it has found a flaw in the announcement or the recommendation. Unforeseen risk in gene editing cannot be ruled out. Towards the end, author comes to this conclusion, right? So as I said, towards the conclusion, author may bring his main idea. He says unforeseen risk in gene editing cannot be ruled out. All genetically modified products must go through the same safety and labeling processes regardless of method. So here author concludes with the idea that some caution is needed while giving permission for gene mutation or gene modification, as there is unforeseen risk involved. Whichever method companies are going to adopt, some risk is involved, hence there has to be some caution, right? So author's opinion is expressed towards the end. So here he starts with a government announcement, very neutral start. He doesn't state what he feels about it. Then he takes the example of an editorial which has reacted in a mixed way, while lauding some of the clauses or while lauding some of the facets of the law or the recommendation. It has also expressed apprehension. All right, so we understood the subject is gene modification in Japan and a recent panel recommendation. Author's opinion, author feels that blanket permission should not be given. These companies have been given exception, with the exception of microbes cultured in contained environment. If this is done, then they don't have to register with government. Author feels these companies also should not be given this latitude. They should also come under the purview of this law. All right. So this is how this paragraph can be summarized. Now, look at the options. First option says, accepting microbes cultured in contained environment from the regulations of genome editing is premature, completely distorting the information. Author does not say it's premature. That premature means it is acceptable, but after a few years. That is not the intent of the author here. Premature means author would accept it after a few years. That is not the intent of the author. Author says all modification should be controlled by this law. There should not be any exception to gene modification. Third, a government panel in Japan says transgenic modification and genome editing are not the same. Nowhere it expresses author's opinion. The main idea is author's opinion on this recommendation. Author says the reaction is mixed. While it should be lauded, there are some loopholes which are to be corrected, because the long-term health risk or the long-term risk cannot be ignored, cannot be ruled out. All right. So C nowhere states what author feels about this issue. Completely overruled, right? So C is also eliminated. Look at D. Creating categories within genetically modified products in terms of transgenic modification and genome editing advances science but defies law. Nowhere paragraph states that it is flouting any norm of law. It says it should also be taken into consideration that it might have unforeseen risk. All kinds of gene mutation or modification will have unforeseen risk. It does not say it is violating some principles of law. Again, distortion of the intent of the author. Hence, D is also ruled out. So if in your mind the essence of paragraph is clear, eliminating options will be far easier for you. It's going to be a no-brainer for you to understand that this is not matching the summary that I have in my mind, because I have understood the summary by deconstructing the message in a paragraph. You get B now. Exempting from regulations the editing of endogenous genes is not desirable, as this procedure might be risk-prone. Author has expressed his apprehension that even this area should not be exempted. These companies should also be required to register under government because it has some unforeseen risk. So this element is perfectly captured in this option, hence B is your answer. So I hope I'm clear that this is what you have to do while reading paragraph. One, author's point of view. Author is going to craft that paragraph by dictating by a certain point of view. That point of view is extremely necessary for you to understand in order to come to the right summary option. Logical link. Now look at this part. With the exception of, that means he is giving one scenario which is exempted from this law. Look at one more link. While lauding the potential benefits of genome, while another logical link which is suggesting author is going to bring trust in the idea. While some parts are laudable, some need revisiting. Third, understand its conclusion. Towards the conclusion only we understood that author also echoes with the thought of editorial. While editorial had a mixed reaction, so has author. Author also feels this exemption should not be given. These companies should also be obligated to register because it has some unforeseen risk. Towards the conclusion, we understood author's clear purpose and clear point of view. And then we try to summarize that it has some flaw, it is to be corrected. So I hope with this example, I made it explicitly clear to you what is it that is required to deal with this question effectively. One, understand main idea, topic, what author's point of view is, see the logical link, see where transition is happening, where progression is happening, understand conclusion, summarize in your own language, look at the option and mark your answer. Easier said than done. Fine, so now let's move on and talk about what summary should be like. There are some elements which are required to be there in the right option of summary. So, first of all, it should capture the main idea of paragraph, not details or examples. First statement is the topic statement, or that is the controlling idea. When you have understood the main idea, your summary should capture that main idea. If it is capturing supporting details, details of examples, details of evidence, and leaving out the main detail, that should not be your summary. Here, if author's point of view is omitted from an option and what editor has said or editorial has said, if that is capturing, that is not your ideal summary. Because ultimately, what is it that author said about the topic is going to be part of the summary. So here, what you have to keep in mind is main idea has to be captured. Sometimes supporting details, supporting evidence can be left out. Second, your ideal summary should convey the intent of the complete paragraph. It might happen that in some paragraph, author develops two parallel ideas, which are equally important. Now, if a summary captures one idea but leaves out another idea completely, is also not going to be your answer. If there are two parallel, equally important ideas created by the author in a paragraph, in your summary also that should be reflected. That means both ideas should be given weightage in your summary. And you have to understand, for that you have to understand that the other idea is not the supporting idea. The other idea is as important as the primary idea is, because the argument is built that way. So that means complete paragraph has to be reflected from the summary. From reading the summary, you can make out what should be there in the paragraph. From reading the summary, you should be in a position to anticipate what is the content of this paragraph. If this is a summary, what should be the content of the paragraph, right? So that gives you a clear direction about how you should choose your summary and how you should choose those options which are not capturing the whole skeleton of the paragraph. Third, it should represent whole paragraph in a succinct manner. In a brief manner, your summary should state everything which is there in the paragraph, not leaving important details and not including unimportant, inconsequential details. So if there are two options which are conveying same thing but worded differently, expressed differently, one is concise and one is verbose, the option is going to be the concise one. At the same time, you have to see that the concise way is not omitting any essential part of the paragraph. The summary has to be expressed in the succinct way. That means it has to be expressed in a short way. All right. So these are some overarching principles on which you should base your answer. Whether it's capturing the main idea, whether it is capturing whole paragraphs, whether it is capturing the idea in a brief manner. These three principles you have to keep in mind when you're stuck between two options. Now, let's go on and talk about what options or what kinds of options you should eliminate while choosing your summary. Partially true. One of the options that you should always eliminate is partially true. Why? Because it captures the half idea in a summary while ignores other important details. As I said, if author has developed two parallel ideas in a paragraph, both ideas should be represented in your summary. The partially true or partially correct option is going to capture one of the ideas. It does not, and don't mark this answer assuming the left out details are not important. For that, if you miss out on understanding the main idea, then you are going to mark an option which is partially true or partially correct, because you may not have understood the main idea correctly. Right? So that way it is incumbent on you to understand the main idea thoroughly and then see if the summary is resonating that main idea or not. Now look at this option, this question, previous year question. The paragraph is, physically, inertia is a feeling that you just can't move. Semicolon. Second idea, mentally it is a sluggish mind. So this, I have boldfaced this statement. This in a way is the controlling statement, which is going to set out what author wants to say further. Even if you try to be sensitive, if your mind is sluggish, you just don't feel anything intensely. You may even see a tragedy enacted in front of your eyes and not be able to respond meaningfully. So it's talking about mental inertia. First, it settled the idea of what physical inertia is, and then it set out explaining what mental inertia is. It says you may see one person exploiting another, one group persecuting another, and not be able to get angry. This is detailed example because he says, first, the idea is you may even see a tragedy. The tragedy is someone's exploitation, someone's persecution. So these are details. Last, your energy is frozen. You are not deliberately refusing to act. You don't have the capacity. Author comes to this conclusion that you are not doing it deliberately. It's not a conscious decision to be inactive, but rather you don't have the capacity. This inertia has left you incapacitated. So this is what the paragraph is. Now look at two options, which are half correct options. Half correct or partially correct, because they are capturing half the message of this paragraph. First option, when you have inertia, you don't act although you see one person exploiting or one group persecuting another. You don't get angry because you are incapable. Nowhere this paragraph talks about physical inertia. And this paragraph, in a way, also distorts the message or the intent of the author. You don't do it deliberately. Rather, you have lost your capacity to respond meaningfully. So this important part is also left out from this option. And then this is partially correct because it does not include the details of physical inertia. Second option, inertia is of two types, physical and mental. Now this captures this first part. This option captures this first part. But why this is also wrong, let's see. Physical inertia restricts bodily movements. Mental inertia prevents mental responses to event enacted in front of your eyes. He specifically talked about those events which are tragic, prosecution, exploitation. So this important detail is missing in this paragraph. So it is not capturing your paragraph in a complete sense. It is leaving out very important essence of the paragraph. Right? From these two options, I hope it's clear that these are not correct options or correct answer because they are partially correct. They are capturing half of it and one of the options is distorting the message. Now look at this paragraph or look at this guideline also. Disfiguring the intent of paragraph. Now there are options which are going to disfigure the message of the paragraph. This option will change the intent and purpose of the author. This will communicate the idea which is not expressed by the author. Or this will change, tweak the idea or the view of the author. Now look at this option. Inertia makes your body and mind sluggish. They become insensitive to tragedies. Your body and mind both become insensitive to tragedies, exploitation, persecution, because it freezes your energy and incapacitates it. Nowhere author talks about your body. He introduces physical inertia at the beginning and rest of the part is talking about mental inertia only. This option is distorting the author's intent. Author here, this option says they become insensitive to tragedy. They is referring to both your body and your mind. Alright, so this is disfigured, changing author's intent or changing author's purpose of writing a paragraph. Now look at the correct answer. Physical inertia stops your body from moving. So first part is covered adequately. Mental inertia freezes your energy, stops your mind from responding meaningfully to events, even tragedies in front of you. So all those persecution, exploitation are coming or are captured in this word tragedies. Because those are details, those are examples, tragic events, perfectly summing up all those events. Right? So though it's a long sentence, longer than other options, but you will see this is the only option which is capturing the whole paragraph in the right spirit. Alright? So here conciseness should not come at the expenses of accuracy. Your summary has to be concise, but the one which captures entire idea perfectly, not the one which leaves out crucial details or key details of the paragraph. Right? So I hope we are clear with this paragraph and we are clear with two principles here. Options which are partially true are to be eliminated. Options which disfigure the intent of the paragraph should also be eliminated. Same intent and purpose should be communicated in your summary as well. So if you understand author's point of view well, you will be able to come to the right answer. Invariably, you will come to the right answer if you understand his attitude on the subject. Another option which will mark wrong, which should be eliminated by you, is the one which eliminates or leaves out critical information of the paragraph. As I said, your main idea is your critical information. Author's point of view on that main idea is your critical information. So if that critical information is left out, your summary is not the right summary. Alright, so this option will touch upon details, will give you the details of examples, but does not state what main idea or what main thought of the paragraph is. Look at the cat question. Read it and understand with the same way we discussed. Author's point of view, logical links, understanding conclusion, and conclude or summarize in your own language. Okay, I'll read it out for you. Some decisions will be fairly obvious, no brainers. So very clearly, the topic statement, topic sentence of the paragraph, which decisions are not going to require you to think much about them. They are going to be no-brainer. You don't have to think much about it. You don't have to rake your brain to think what to do because they are obviously clear. One of these decisions is your bank account is low, you don't have funds, but you have a 2-week vacation coming up and you want to get away to some place warm to relax with your family. So this decision, will you accept your in-laws offer of free use of their Florida beachfront condo? Sure. So this decision is a no-brainer because the situation is you don't have funds, you have 2-week vacation coming up. Will you accept an offer put up by your in-laws? Of course, you will do because the situation is you are short of funds. Second, you like your employer and feel free to move forward in your career. Another situation. Will you step in for your boss for 3 weeks while she attends a professional development course? Of course. This decision is also obvious because you don't have to think much about it. You like your boss and you want to move forward in your career, and you will fill in your boss who is going to attend a professional development course. She is going to be away from work and you have to carry her responsibilities as well. And you will surely do it because the situation is you like her and you want to advance in your career. Right? So this is the situation. These decisions are no-brainer. So I hope the summary in our mind is that in certain situations, decision making is going to be easier for us. It's going to be no-brainer. You don't have to think much about it. And look at these options. B says, some decisions are no-brainers. You need not think when making them. Examples are condo offers from in-laws and job offers from bosses when your bank account is low or boss is away. Now, clearly restatement of what is given in the paragraph. Two examples and main idea. Leaving out author's opinion completely. Leaving out important crucial details of author opinion clearly, that there are certain circumstances you like your boss, you want to advance in your career, you don't have enough funds to support your vacation. In that, will you accept your in-laws offer? Right? So those situations, the mention of those situations is absolutely absent, and that is why that is not your answer. So this option is leaving out important details, author's opinion. Certain circumstances make these decisions easier, no-brainer. Look at C. Easy decisions are called no-brainers. So at the very beginning only, he distorts the main idea, because he says some decision will be fairly obvious in some situations, when the situations are these. Not all the time these decisions are no-brainer. In certain situations, these decisions are no-brainer. Second, because they do not require any cerebral activity. Examples such as accepting free holiday accommodation abound in our lives. One example capturing. Okay, you can leave out another example, but this is also leaving out important information about the situation. You don't have enough funds, and that is why you are accepting your in-laws offer to offer you accommodation. Right? So that mention of important detail is missing in this paragraph. Third, accepting an offer from in-laws when you are short on funds and want a holiday is a no-brainer. Admissible. So far, no problem. Another no-brainer is taking the boss's job when she is away. Are you taking boss's job, or are you filling in for her because you like her and you want to be in her good books, and she is attending a course on professional development? So this is an option which is half correct. Now, half the option is absolutely incorrect, distorting the intent of the paragraph. So this is also incorrect. The correct answer is some decisions are obvious under certain circumstances. So the author has clearly stated these circumstances make these decisions no-brainer. They are not no-brainer in all the circumstances. Right? So you may, for example, readily accept a relative's offer of free holiday accommodation or step in for your boss when she is away. Alright, so under these circumstances, these decisions are no-brainer. So if you understood here the author's intent, you wouldn't have missed the important details. So the important details, they clearly guide you that this option is not my summary, because this is not capturing the main detail. So always leave or eliminate those options which are leaving or omitting critical information of the paragraph. The third guideline, or the principle that you have to abide by while choosing your right answer for summary question, is avoiding extreme options. As avoiding extreme options is true for doing reading comprehension questions as well, or critical reasoning questions as well, so it is true for para summary questions. So if everything has been stated in moderation, author is not overtly stated an extreme opinion or extreme thought, you don't have to assume that extremity in your option, and hence these become the guideline, these words become the guideline to be avoided. So words such as all, never, always, no one, must, these words in an option, if you feel these words are there in the option and the author does not have the intent of all, never, always, you should eliminate them. So if author has said that some investors feel apprehensive about investing in mutual funds, You cannot come to this summary that all investors or all category of investors feel apprehensive about investing in mutual funds. If he has stuck to some, your summary should also reflect some, not all. If author has said, Indian investors are sometimes averse to investing in government bonds. You should not state that Indian investors are always averse to investing in government bonds. If author is of the opinion that sometimes Indian investors are averse to doing that, you should stick to that and find that in your summary. Sometimes does not become never, does not become every time, all does not become some does not become all. That's what you have to understand. जैसा उसका इंटेंशन है आपकी समरी भी वैसा ही रिफ्लेक्ट करना चाहिए. So must, no one, that way, you should be wary of these words. If they appear in one of the options, look at your paragraph again, read your paragraph again. Try to verify whether this extreme thought or opinion has been expressed by author or not. If not, eliminate that option. Such options overstate or understate the fact given in the paragraph. In some cases, these answer options state the opposite of the ideas given in the passage. So, they will completely change the intent of the paragraph. So, usage of these words in the option invariably will make that option incorrect. One more question of previous year CAT. A distinguishing feature of language is our ability to refer to absent things, known as displaced reference. A speaker can bring distinct references to mind in the absence of any obvious stimuli. So that's the distinguishing feature of language. We can think about those things which are not at the immediate proximity. कोई चीज़ जो बहुत दूर है मैं उसके बारे में भी immediately सोच सकती हूँ. Though there is no direct stimuli, ऐसी कोई चीज़ नहीं है जिसने मुझे उसको ट्रिगर किया हो उसकी मेमोरी को, बट मैं फिर भी उसके बारे में सोच सकती हूँ. Thoughts not limited to the here and now. My thoughts are not limited to here and now. मतलब my thoughts are not confined to my place. My thoughts are not confined to timeline. मैं अभी और यही के बारे में नहीं सोच रही हूँ. मेरे थॉट्स किसी चीज़ के भी बारे में सोच सकते हैं. Can pop into our heads for unfathomable reasons. For anything, anything can pop up in your mind. This ability to think about distant things necessarily precedes the ability to talk about them. This is what author's main idea is. By giving these details, he has given the details so far. And here comes author's point. Yahi hamari ability to think about distant things necessarily precedes the ability to talk about them. We can think about things, that is why we are able to talk about them. Thought precedes meaningful referential communication. If you are talking in a very meaningful way, you are engaging in a meaningful communication, that means you must have put in some thought into that communication. A prerequisite for the emergence of human-like meaningful symbols is that the mental categories they relate to can be invoked even in the absence of immediate stimuli. So if you see towards the end, author restates what he said at the very beginning. He said, even when there is no obvious stimuli before me, I can think about something which happened in the past or which is at distance, right? So my thinking process is not confined to now and here. I can think about those things which are not here. I can think about those things which are not now, which were earlier. All those things which will be there in the future. So the main idea is in the middle, and the last part, that is concluding part, restates what he stated in the very beginning. I hope we are clear with the whole idea this paragraph conveys or articulates. Right? Now look at two options where I have bold-faced the extreme choices. These words make these options extreme in nature, hence they are eliminated. Look at B. Thought precedes all speech acts. Now, when we have a meaningful communication, we think before and then we have communication. Author says here, thought precedes yani come before all speech acts, and these thoughts pop up in our head even in the absence of any stimulus. So that part is correct, but the first part is absolutely distorted because it uses word all. Not all speech acts, only those conversations which are meaningful. So the meaningful conversations are those where thought precedes the communication. So the person who is engaged in the conversation thinks before speaking. So all is making this option too extreme, and it's also distorting. B is eliminated. Look at C option. Thoughts are essential to communication, and only humans have the ability to think about objects not present in their surrounding. He said human has this capacity. Nowhere in the passage he said only humans have this capacity. No. Unless this extremity has been expressed in the paragraph by the author, you cannot come to this. Humans have this capacity. He did not say no other animal has this capacity or no other creature has this capacity. He hasn't talked about any creature, so we cannot come to this conclusion. And this cannot be mentioned in your summary. So these two words, as I said, never, always, all, only. Only is also one of those words which make options extreme. He talked in a way, in a general sense, about humans' capacity to think before speaking and think about distant things without any stimuli. That's what your thought should confine to. So B and C extreme option, hence eliminated. Let's look at two more options. D says the ability to think about objects not present in our environment precedes the development of human communication. A says displaced reference is particular to human and thought pop into head for no real reason. I hope you can see the difference of these two options. The answer is D. Right? Because as I said, the third sentence, this ability to think about distant things necessarily precedes the ability to talk about them. So this is the main idea, and that is perfectly captured in D. The ability to think about objects not present in our environment, not here, not now. That means not in our environment, precedes the development of human communication. All right? So that way you come to D, because you understood the main idea clearly and the development of author's thought on this paragraph. Alright? So extreme options with never, with always, with only, with all should be avoided unless you find an evidence in the paragraph supporting this kind of extreme option. Another guideline or principle that you should conform to while eliminating the options is ruling out those options which are out of scope. Out of scope, that means there is a periphery that author has set for his argument, for his idea. Right? So there is a topic which has chosen, and there is a one dimension of the topic that he has chosen to cover. So here, author's communication, human communication was the topic. Now, the dimension of thinking before communicating meaningfully was the dimension, was the scope of that paragraph. Now, if out of scope option could be, which is talking about communication in a general way. It was not communication in a general way. It was communication or the specific dimension of the communication where before a meaningful dialogue you have a thought process which is free from space, which is free from time. So if there is an option which is going beyond this periphery, that is going to be out of scope. So out of scope are these choices relate to same subject being talked about in the paragraph. So an option which is going to talk about communication only, but is going to talk about extension of communication, cross-cultural communication, intercultural communication. So the topic is same, communication, but it is way beyond the scope. It is way beyond the topic scope which author has developed in the paragraph. That is how examiner tries to complicate the matter, because you end up thinking the topic is same. It's talking about communication only, but it's not about topic similarity. It's about what dimension author has touched upon on that topic. So what is discussed in the passage is not going to be there in the summary, but what has been discussed, what dimension of that topic has been discussed. All right. So look at this paragraph carefully and see if there is an option which is going beyond the context or going beyond the scope of the topic. Okay, so the passage goes, modern history abounds with violence fueled by apocalyptic myth, not always explicitly religious in nature. So here author says there are plenty examples in modern history where violence was triggered by apocalyptic myths. That world is coming to an end. So this myth was perpetuated by people in order to trigger violence. Not always explicitly religious in nature. So this apocalyptic myth which were perpetuated or which were propounded by these people, they were not always religious in nature. So main idea, controlling idea. Author is going to prove that further. The aim of the Jacobin terror in revolutionary France, see this detail, example to prove his point, was the creation of a modern state. So Jacobin club, so the tenet of creating the club was that we are going to have a modern state. The state which is going to be not going to be regressive, is not going to be ancient, but rather modern, progressive. If the violent suppression of the peasants' revolt in the Vendee is included, the casualties ran into the hundreds of thousands. So here author is talking about the extent of violence which happened in France. The myth that possessed these anarchists, these anarchists is referring to people who brought this revolution in France. So the myth that possessed these anarchists in their campaigns of assassination were secular myth of social transformation. Look at the idea at the beginning. They were not religious in nature. Here, all these myths that these anarchists professed were secular in nature. That means they were not religious in nature. So, controlling idea being explained by giving the detail of France, Jacobin Club. Lenin, another example now, proving the same point. Lenin avowedly followed the Jacobin example when he used the checker to create a modern state in Russia. So same thing was done by Lenin when he created a new modern state in Russia. One of the factors that distinguished Nazism and fascism from conventional tyrannies was the belief that a new society could be fashioned by the systematic use of terror. Another example of Nazis and fascism, what differentiated these two ideologies from conventional tyrannies is that they created this notion that societies can be changed by systematic use of terror. Violent jihadism, another example, but this forms the basis of his argument. Violent jihadism has more in common with these modern totalitarian movements than is commonly supposed. So jihadism is more akin to these totalitarian movements, then religious. Commonly supposed thought that religion is behind jihad is wrong. Behind this whole jihadism is also totalitarian, fundamentalistic government. Alright? So this is the whole idea. Now look at the option which you may find is out of scope. First says, violent jihadism is justified on the secular myth of social transformation rather than the idea of religious apocalypse. Absolutely out of scope. Nowhere author says is justified. Author says they are not triggered by religion, they are actually triggered by these apocalyptic myths. Nowhere he states they are justified, distorting out of context. Alright? Second, the myth of social transformation has underpinned many totalitarian movements in modern history, and violent jihadism too exploits this. If you see closely, this is the option that perfectly captures the essence of this paragraph. The myth of social transformation. We are creating a modern state. Lenin did this, Jacobin Club founder did this, Nazism and people who believed in Nazism and fascism also propagated this idea that we are going to have a modern state and then we are going to have a social transformation. We are going to do away with hierarchy system. So these illusions were created by these people in order to create violence. So the myth of social transformation has underpinned, that means has been the foundation of many totalitarian movements. 4 totalitarian movements have been cited. The example of 4 totalitarian movements have been cited by author. In modern history, the paragraph starts with word modern history, and violent jihadism too exploits this. Last conclusion, he talks about jihadism. So that should be mentioned in your summary. So this perfectly captures the main idea. See, although it is believed that violence is fueled by religion, author says it is believed but it is actually not true. He says it is actually propagated, perpetuated by social transformation or apocalyptic myth. The reality is that it is unleashed on the premises of the creation of modern state. That main thought is missing in this paragraph. Modern history illustrates that it is a myth that societies can be transformed by systematic use of terror. It was created by these totalitarian government. Alright? So this option also distorts the message. Alright, so I hope with this paragraph it is amply clear that the option which is out of scope should also be eliminated. The last principle that you have to keep in mind is same word or phrases. Now, what examiner is going to do is create an eyewash option because it is using the same phrases, same words, same jargons which are used in the paragraph in order to trick you into believing that since these words are used in the option, they must be the right option. See. Now what you have to capture is idea. The idea should be captured in different words, can also be captured by other words, can also be captured by simplified words or phrases, which do not necessarily require you to use the same words. The author is definitely going to lure you into thinking that this option is correct just because it uses the words you saw in the paragraph. Don't get into that trap. Now, local communities have often come in conflict with agents trying to exploit resources at a faster pace for an expanding commercial industrial economy. So, if an economy where commercial industry is expanding, there people, local communities have come at loggerheads with those agents who are trying to exploit resources. More often than not, such agents of resource intensification are given preferential treatment by the state. So if there are agents, they are supported by state through the grant of generous long lease. उनको ज़मीन बहुत लंबी लीज पे दे दी जाती है for exploiting the resources, for example, or the provision of raw material at an enormously subsidized prices. So उनको बहुत ही कम रेट पे वो जगह दे दी जाती है so that they can exploit all the resources. with the injustice so compounded, ये सारे state उनको preference देती है, इसकी वजह से injustices compounded बढ़ जाती है. Local communities at the receiving end of this process have no recourse except direct action. Local communities के पास कोई option नहीं बचता but to take direct action, resisting both the state and outside exploiters through a variety of protest techniques. वो different protest techniques से इन outsiders को और state दोनों के ही खिलाफ विरोध करती हैं. These struggles might perhaps be seen as a manifestation of a new kind of class conflict. So author conclude कर रहा है ये आइडिया से कि इस तरह के जो स्ट्रगल हो रहे हैं लोकल कम्युनिटीज और स्टेट के बीच में, लोकल कम्युनिटीज और एक्सप्लॉयटर्स के बीच में, ये एक नए तरीके का क्लास कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है. Alright, so while understanding this whole paragraph, we also try to summarize in our own language, right? So 1 or 2 line summary is local communities are in conflict with those agents who are trying to exploit the natural resources in their area. These agents are supported by government. Leave out the example. These agents are given preferential treatment by state. Okay? So, and this is a new kind of conflict because it is compounding the injustice meted out against these local communities. Now look at the example, how cleverly examiner has created these options and by using the same phrases and words given in the options, given in the paragraph. A new kind of class conflict arises from preferential treatment. He uses this preferential treatment word, say, given to agents of resource intensification, resourceification, another word which is used in paragraph, by the state, which the local community sees as unfair, not capturing the idea, only capturing the words. Resource intensification, preferential treatment, new kind of class conflict. The main idea is left out, that's severely missing in the option. The grant of long lease to agents of resource intensification, example, not idea. Foreign expanding commercial industrial economy leads to direct protest from the local community. It is not leading to direct conflict. The exploitative policies, the exploitation of resources is leading to direct conflict. Example as the idea. This was just an example. If you see, I have bold-faced the example. Through the grant of generous long lease and the provision of raw material at an enormously subsidized rate. These are the example of preferential treatment. So these also eliminated. It is also repeating same words. Preferential treatment given by the state to agents of resource intensification for an expanding commercial industry economy exacerbates injustice to local communities and leads to direct protest from them, resulting in a new type of class conflict. This is also using the same words, but it is also capturing the idea. Exacerbating, that is compounding the problem. They are already marginalized. They are already sidelined by state or other agents of society. They are not at the forefront of community, forefront of nation. So they already are, they feel unjust, and now the injustice is compounded because of this process. Alright, so here exacerbators perfectly captures the injustice is compounded. And that is why a new class conflict is emerging. Alright, so C here is capturing, though it's also using that all those words, at the same time capturing the idea. Alright, so don't get bogged down by looking at these jargon and phrases which are there in the paragraph. You will have to essentially understand the idea behind the words, not words alone. Okay, so here I come to the last of this session, or end of this session. So tips that I would like to give you is reading and practicing, right? So the more you read, the variety of passages you read and the variety of passages and you practice for your RC as well as for your parajumble and paragraph summary, the more conversant you will get with different styles of author, different styles of writing, and different styles of paragraph formation. All right, the more questions you do, better confidence you will have to deal with these questions. So practice and start read, right? Start reading. The more you read, the better you will be, better will be your speed and reading skill. So they are intertwined, all right? So they are definitely going to help you read better, read faster. An active reader can grasp the underlying message of the paragraph in a more accurate and timely manner. So, as you become advanced in your reading, as you familiarize yourself with different spheres of reading, different domains of reading, especially those which are academically challenging, not those passages, not those subjects that are easy to understand, that are easy to follow, rather those subjects which are widely covered in your CAT passages, in your CAT um, paragraph questions or VA questions. You will have greater ability to deal with these passages and deal with these subjects. So you better expose yourself to these variety of subjects which are academically drawn. All right. Pick up your favorite topics and invest time in quality reading. So if you want to start quality reading, even for CAT 21, you should pick up with the subject you find your interest in. So whichever subject you are inevitably drawn, you start reading quality stuff. So let's say you are interested in cinema or you are interested in movies. To read those stuff which is categorized as a qualitative content, written in academic journals or those newspapers which are leading newspapers. All right. So instead of using substandard material or the material which is not going to give you material at par with your CAT passages, discard those material. All right. So pick up your favorite topic and then eventually lead to better subjects. It is a good idea to reread the paragraph if you need more clarity of the main idea. Once you have eliminated two options, you are stuck between two options, reread the paragraph. Instead of choosing an option on the basis of your hunch, on the basis of your speculation, reread the paragraph because here you can have much time. You have enough time for reading or for doing this paragraph summary question. So you can afford to reread the paragraph. So reread the paragraph and then see the difference in the formation of those options. So what is it that is distinguishing those two options? So if there is a word like all, if there is a word like which is distorting the information, see the difference in two options that you are stuck between. Go through the passage again, paragraph again, and then have greater clarity and mark your answer. All right. So I hope with these strategies that you have to stick to while doing paragraph summary questions will eventually help you in bettering your accuracy, in elevating your score of verbal ability, and eventually clearing the cutoff of verbal section in CAT. All the very best for your preparation for this exam as well as for taking this exam this year. And do tell me what topics you want me to cover in coming sessions on this channel, and please share me with your thoughts and your opinion on this session, how you found this, whether this helped you in getting some clarity about the topic or not, and I'll definitely welcome your suggestion and inputs and will incorporate in my coming sessions. Thank you very much.